All right, guys, how do I create carousels for Instagram? One thing to mention is that you should not focus on making carousels on Instagram until you have, I would say, 10,000 followers or maybe even 20,000 followers. The thing is, carousels are a great way to reach your existing followers, but it's not a good way to reach new audiences unless you have good amount of followers already. Okay, so it's very interesting. Carousels is a very interesting thing. So for example, right, I have carousels that, for example, this one, and this one, that went semi-viral, right? This carousel got me about 1,000 new followers, and it performed better than compared to some of my reels. But reels is still the #1 way to reach new audiences. Okay, so keep this in mind. Carousel is also a good way to do that, but you need to have audience already. So if you don't have 10,000 followers, don't even think about making carousels yet. But if you already have an audience and if you want to reach more of your audience, because the way carousels work, usually they first go to your existing audience, and then after time it gets pushed more and more and more and more. So the longevity of carousels is it's a very long one. They get pushed out a lot. The thing is, you need to use audio when uploading them, and then they get pushed out on the reels like a tab, right? When you scroll through reels, your carousel could be recommended there as well, as long as it has audio. All right, how do I make them? Okay, so first of all, I already have data. I already know what is working for me. And what I like to do is, for example, this carousel performed really well for me. It has been posted 5th of September. Today is 16th of October, which means it's over a month since I posted this, and it's a good time frame for me to replicate this one because it worked in the past, which means it's going to perform also right now based on the data. I know that it should perform based on the data like again. So what I'm going to do in this tutorial is going to show you how, first of all, I came up with an idea. So the way I came up for the idea right now is by looking at the data. The way you come up with ideas is by looking at your, for example, data from your reels. Just let me show you the example. So for example, this reel performed crazy well for me. As you can see, 9.2 million views. By age 22, you should be smart enough to know this. So what I've done is I created a carousel out of this here. You see? And it's also performed really well. So if you don't have data from carousels because you have not been posting it yet, you can look at the data from your reels and look what topics from your reels perform really well and turn those topics into carousels. And most likely those gonna perform really well for you as well, because those topics from your most viral reels brought you in a lot of your followers. And as I mentioned before at the start of this tutorial, that carousels are mostly going to be pushed out in the beginning to your audience. So when the audience sees similar style content, similar topic that they followed you for, they're likely to engage with that as well. So that's the reason for this video, I'm picking this carousel. 9 things you need to level up as a man. So first thing I do is I open the carousel and okay, so I see the carousel, I see what I mentioned here. So what I can do to make this one a little bit different is either add new topics here or shuffle those topics, and of course use different visuals. So what I'm gonna do, what I do all the time is first I just open the Notion right here, as you can see the Notion, and I would start writing from the hook. So 9 things you need to level up as a man. Okay, so that would be our hook. And if we look at the past, I also have created similar carousel in the past. I just said 9 things you need to glow up as a man, right? It also got good results, but not the same as this one. It could be multiple factors why this happened. It could have been that this one just hit differently, or it also could be just success, luck, right? So in here, I said 9 things you need to glow up as a man. And this one, I said 9 things you need to level up as a man. Maybe that's a little bit different, and it was more easier to read, or it could be a combination of completely different things, and you're not ever gonna know. But for this specific carousel, I'm gonna pick this hook again. 9 things you need to level up as a man. Now I'm gonna open that carousel again. I'm gonna go and write down all those things that I had in my previous carousel. So appearance, invest in your looks. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to use this hook, right? The same hook, but it's gonna have a different image at the beginning, okay? The image, it's not gonna be the same one. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep these things the same, but I'm gonna shuffle them. So instead of saying resistance training, I'm gonna say fit body in the beginning, then taking risks, then appearance and traveling, and keep everything like that. Instead of saying comment world to join my private community and learn how to build a thriving personal brand, I'm gonna give away a lead magnet, a freebie for something. So I have multiple lead magnets, free courses, whatever. And this Carousels is a very good way to do that. If you have like a ManyChat automation set up and everything like that set up, you just put that in by the end of your carousel, right? And you also get the benefit of people leaving a comment and you getting them into your email list. So that's another very, very great thing. In this one, I specifically sold my product right away, but now I'm gonna change this into different automation and send them something for free instead. So I would say comment specific keyword to get a free course about that, or free 7-lesson course about that, right? So here's the thing. I'm gonna keep everything like that. And now I'm gonna show you how I edit this, pre-edit this on Adobe Photoshop, all right? So I'm gonna show you how I edit this on Adobe Photoshop. I'm gonna show you exactly how I add grain, how I add the caption and everything like that. And of course, I'm not gonna edit all of these. I'm just gonna edit the intro. And so you can see the font I'm using, everything else, and you can edit this yourself. All right, so this is my sample that I use, okay? So there are multiple fonts here, multiple sizes of the fonts. And I already have a bunch of pictures here. But for this one, for the intro, I'm going to pick something new, as I said. So I'm gonna open my folder on that I have for carousels and look for something in here. So for example, for the beginning image, this is where you need your font to be the most visible, I believe. I really like this image, but I'm not sure how the font is gonna be visible here. So I'm just gonna add this image here. I always like to add text in the left-hand side because it's easier to read. We are naturally more prompt to read from the left-hand side. 9 things you need to level up as a man. Like that, right? Now you can see it's very easy to read, right? It's very easy for people to read it. So you're not gonna lose almost none of the audiences. And all you need is for people to read this headline. It's very, very important for people to see and read the headline. So it has to be clearly showcased here. Then what I like to do sometimes is add a thing called grain. So now you don't see it on my desktop, but pretty much you need to go to filter on Photoshop, and then you go to noise and add noise. Sorry, it's not grain, it's noise, but actually it's kind of similar. And I add 10% amount of Gaussian noise and click OK. And it adds this effect, right? So I think it's pretty clearly visible for people to read. So again, make sure your text, at least for the intro, it's on the left-hand side. So it's easier for people to read it, right? After you've done it, you just obviously go to export as PNG. And the way I like to do it is just name it as intro. So I'm going to know that it's going to be intro for my carousel. And then for each other thing, I would just, go over, for example, fit body, right? What I like to do as well is keeping the font for the secondary text a little bit smaller. So it's going to be 26.69, and the main font is going to be this. And then you have a picture, something related to this, right? To fit body. So it could be a picture of you in the gym, something that is related to that thing, right? And of course, make sure it's also visible, but secondary things that comes after your intro, keep in mind, your intro, your hook is the most important thing, right? The second picture for carousel is also important because Instagram sometimes shows the second picture to the people who already saw the first one. So what Instagram likes to do is to show the second slide of your carousel sometimes. So keep this in mind as well. And the same thing goes here. It's just I would go to filter and I would add noise like that to make it more interesting. So that's that for carousel tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know inside our community or in the comments. Don't forget that carousels is more prompt to be created for people that have an audience already. So keep in mind, if you're just starting out, use the strategies from 0 to 10,000 followers hub to grow your page with Reels.